Waiting. There it is. We're live.
It took so long.
I know, that was ridiculous. Happy Tuesday. We are back. Another episode.
I feel like StreamYard is forcing us to have the millennial pause, you know?
The what?
So the millennial pause. Oh my gosh, you're so old. You don't know what the millennial pause is?
Mm-mm.
So the millennial pause is a thing where we as old people don't understand how instantaneous technology is. So whenever we try to make a TikTok video or a podcast or something like that, we have this awkward pause between actually going live and being live.
So I'm so old that I don't even make TikTok videos.
Yeah, Gen Z and Gen Alpha don't do that. They just start, they press and expect that it's going to work right away. Whereas we're always like, oh, is this going well? And anyways, I feel like StreamYard with their super delay on going live lately is forcing us to participate in the millennial pause.
For the rest of the developed world, it's called Z, not Z. If anybody was confused what she was talking about. All right, we got a whole bunch of BTC and ETH news today.
Oh, do we ever?
What are we going to cover, my friend?
Okay, well, we're going to talk about whales. We're going to go under the sea and swim with some big old whales. We're going to see if Mr. 100 was actually doxxed or not, because that's a hot topic. We're going to talk about Bitcoin mining in Iceland and how it might actually improve their food resourcing. That's pretty cool. And then we're going to talk about ETH, which is BlackRock, London Stock Exchange, and Trump.
Can't have a good BTC ETH Tuesday without Trump. All right, let's go. All right, we're back. We got article number 1 today. This is a cool one. Mega Bitcoin whale moves $6 billion.
That's too many dollars.
Huh?
Too many dollars.
Too many dineros. Okay, what the article says is blockchain enthusiasts were surprised this week as the long dormant 37x wallet, once the 5th largest Bitcoin wallet, sprang back to life after years of inactivity in a monumental move. 94,504.03 Bitcoins, valued at over $6 billion, were transferred to 3 different addresses. This transaction not only reshuffled the hierarchy of top Bitcoin addresses, but also sparked intense speculation within the crypto community. Does this mean mega dumpage, Ceara, or what do you think?
I don't know. I have to speculate about what they're speculating about.
Speculate about the speculation?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I mean,
because...
so there's a few things. Like historically, when these wallets have been dormant forever, sometimes when they become undormant, it's people taking profits. They're just saying, "Oh, I realize I now have $6 billion. Those 95,000 Bitcoins, I bet you cost less than 100 grand for that person. Not a bad return. 100,000 to 6 billion. I mean."
Some people speculate, and it was even in the Globe and Mail, which is a Canadian newspaper that you have to pay for. It's in the Globe and Mail that some people believe this is Chinese investors. Some people think it might be Huobi. Some people think it might be Huawei. But people really believe that this massive wallet is going to fund some sort of security issue for a lot of technology that we're using going forward.
That's one of the most ridiculous versions of speculation that I've ever heard.
It's true, though. Well, I mean, the speculation is true.
Speculation exists. Yeah. But it's ridiculous, in my opinion. I mean, could it be? Sure, of course, it could be a Huobi executive, or it could be could be CZ for all we know. Like, it could be anybody.
Well, it's Do Kwon.
I doubt it. That would have been seized a while ago. But I mean, there's a lot of other explanations for why they would move this. They moved 5 billion and change to one wallet, and then the other 2 wallets kind of split the last billion. They could have just moved it around to collateralize it, to borrow against it. They may, there's a million explanations.
Why 3 different wallets? What if it's like, what if it's one of those pacts where like whoever's left standing gets all of the Bitcoin at the end? Yeah, and these are like the last.
Maybe somebody died. Who knows? Maybe one of them died. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This to me is like, we always find things to like FUD about and have controversy over. This is just another one of them. I mean, this has kind of been a thing since the beginning of Bitcoin. We're always talking about big wallets. So, those must be lost. And then all of a sudden, they moved and everybody's all excited.
Okay, well, there's been speculation for years about the Bitcoin whale, Mr. 100. So the identity of Bitcoin whale, Mr. 100, has caused another stir in our crypto world. The wallet contains over 52,996 Bitcoins valued at over $3.5 billion. Mr. 100 has attracted significant attention because that money has been moving too. Recent data shows that this whale has been aggressively accumulating Bitcoin since the downfall of FTX in 2022. Analysts have speculated about Mr. 100's origins, with theories ranging from Hong Kong financial institutions to sovereign wealth funds. An investigation by Arkham Intelligence has unveiled Mr. 100's true identity as an Upbit cold wallet. What do you think Mr. 100 is doing with that?
No idea. It could, in fact, be an Upbit cold wallet that represents all of their user deposits. Probably not that out of the realm of expectation. 3.5 billion. I could totally see that being the deposit amount inside Upbit. Who knows? Again, I mean, there are ways now to eventually deduce who wallets belong to, generally, especially if they are used. I mean, if a wallet doesn't move ever, of course, it's very difficult to figure out who it is. Yeah. But if as they get used, people usually figure out who it is. I mean, all the major centralized exchanges have to hold the assets on chain somewhere. Right. So they all have big, fairly large cold wallets that they use. I mean, this isn't super surprising to me. I think it's funny that, we thought it was a person. There's a bunch of speculation over what said person is doing. And now we find out it's probably just an exchange. Again, proves my point from the last article that the speculation is ridiculous. Like, there's no basis for this at all.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's a slow news day, JD.
No, I mean, this is every day, really. Like, this is kind of sums up why we started the show. Yeah, really. I mean, there's so much of this stuff that's hyperbole and kind of gray and maybe kind of fudging the truth a little bit. And so we're just trying to help people see through that, really. Right? Anyways, all right. Moving on to Iceland, because, I mean, who doesn't want to go freeze their butt off in Iceland? But Iceland's Bitcoin mining is apparently unlocking sustainable solutions for the food import gap. So Iceland, renowned for its renewable energy, faces a significant food import gap despite its environmental focus. Prime Minister, can't pronounce that, highlighted this dilemma, emphasizing the need for solutions. However, innovative approaches linking Bitcoin mining with sustainable practices offer hope. By leveraging excess heat from mining for agriculture, Iceland can enhance food sustainability while maintaining its position as a global mining hub. Since you are the token tree hugger of the group,
I am. Also, like, literally, that name is not that hard to say. It's Prime Minister Katrin Jakobsdottir.
How do you say that?
Katrin Jakobsdottir.
Jakobsdottir? That's how you say that name?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Read it.
Fair enough. Anyways, so do you think this is like going to change?
I think this is cool because we've been seeing a lot of issues with Bitcoin mining. We're going to talk a little bit more about Bitcoin mining going forward, but we had the big investigation with the SEC about environmental impact. We've seen that a lot of Bitcoin mines in the States are participating in lobbying so that we can have more renewable energy resources because they kind of have to so that they stay regulated and relevant within that particular market. So I like seeing this different way that Iceland is like, okay, how are we going to use all this excess heat? How are we going to ensure that this remains sustainable? How are we going to improve our PR about Bitcoin mining? Because we do have huge mines and we want to keep having those mines. So what should we do to make this more palatable for people? I think this is palatable. I think this is a really great option that hasn't been explored en masse yet. Sometimes I joke about in college trying to see if Bitcoin mining could heat my rental home. It couldn't, but maybe I just wasn't, smart enough to figure out how to capture all of that heat. Whereas in Iceland, I see that they're using them for greenhouses. They are already having all these issues where they're worried about food sovereignty because they have to import so much of it. So if this can solve kind of two birds, one stone for them, I think it's great.
Before we get all excited thinking that the US can fix any food import problems with this, it's worth noting that their shortfall is less than $10 million worth of food per year. So it's not like we're talking tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars worth of food savings. So just to bring it down a little bit. But that being said, I think this is actually kind of interesting. I'm not quite as focused on the environmental impact of Bitcoin because I just don't think it's as bad as the lobby has built it up to be on the environment, although it's not great. So any steps in the right direction, I suppose.
Yeah, but why waste the heat if we don't have to?
So there's been a few of these groups talking about this. There has been actually a few that have built or at least designed or thought about HVAC structures that could in fact use mining rigs to heat your home or your garage or a greenhouse or something like that, which is pretty cool. So I mean, I'm definitely not fuddy on this, other than it's not something that necessarily can be applied to every country.
Totally.
But definitely something really cool.
The concept of resiliency is so critical here, right? So we talk a lot about how DeFi and the ethos of DeFi is how you can be more resilient and financially independent as an individual. But what does resiliency actually mean to a community, or what does resiliency mean to a country? And how can we factor all of these pieces in to make ourselves more sustainable, not only environmentally sustainable, but more sustainable as a people and more resilient as a people? It's ensuring that you're using all those resources efficiently and effectively.
It's actually, that's a good point. And it's kind of neat that they're speaking of the benefits in not direct financial terms either. Like the benefits are a little bit more holistic to society as far as they're approaching it, which I think is kind of cool. Again, I'm not a super left-leaning person, generally speaking, but I definitely think it's interesting.
I don't think you have to be left to be in on this. I think like this is actually really capturing the DeFi ethos, which is maybe why I'm so stoked about it. So I used to work in brewing. JD knows this. I used to work in brewing. And there were a couple of breweries at the time that were capturing. So when something is fermenting, it off gases. And so some breweries were capturing that off gassing and then actually recarbonating the beverages that they were selling with that off gas. Did they have to do that? No. Some of the criticism was, well, is this really worthwhile? I mean, it's not that expensive to buy gases to carbonate with, so why bother doing this? But it's the concept of not having to rely on that single source. Yeah. And so if we can do that with finance, and then we can take our financial technologies and learn to apply that beyond, totally thrilled.
Completely agree. I guess before we move on from Bitcoin, we can talk a little bit about some insights. Go ahead.
Oh my God, did you have to move me on for once?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so the Bitcoin mining landscape has changed a lot since the last halving nearly 4 years ago, with shifts in geographical concentration, institutional adoption, operational strategies. The whole industry has been reshaped. From the exodus of miners from China to the rise of Texas as a dominant mining hub, the past 4 years have been really transformative for Bitcoin mining. As we approach the upcoming halving, analysts predict further evolution in these mining practices, including increased hash rate distribution across regions, continued institutional adoption, and potential shifts in revenue strategies. And I bet there will also be another shift in geography.
Yeah, most likely. Texas did a lot of things to try to encourage that exodus from China to Texas when it happened. So obviously I was a big fan of that because there was so much China FUD that kept manipulating the markets. So at least this way we got rid of a little bit of the China FUD because it had become reality. So I was okay with that. The cost of electricity in Texas is better than a lot of the rest of the country, but a lot higher than a lot of other countries in the world. And so now as regulation comes out and countries are becoming a little bit more open-minded to Bitcoin, I think we might find more viable solutions vying for geographical dominance of Bitcoin mining. That being said, to their point about kind of the shifting landscape, I think it's pretty interesting. The technology has really evolved. Bitcoin miners are becoming orders of magnitude more performant and more expensive, of course. But the technology is definitely changing. The institutions that are running mining operations are becoming more and more institutional. Mm-hmm. Pun wasn't intended there, but they are becoming a lot more institutional, and you're seeing a lot more kind of enterprise-esque operation strategies and so on, which is fine. It's showing the relative maturity of the space. But I think they talked a little bit in the article about kind of what does that mean for predicting what will happen this year. And I think it was a little bit misleading because it led you to believe that they were going to talk about like price and revenue for these miners. I mean, obviously with the halving, it's a concern for miners. Same work, half the reward in theory. We're seeing the markets participate and drive the price up a little bit to offset some of that, which is obviously good. But we'll have to see.
I think we will see big geographic changes, though. We've been seeing Latin America has been investing a lot more in Bitcoin, especially with our wonderful turnover of power in a variety of those countries. And they've been saying, what was it, Bitcoin a day? I think I did that episode with Christine. One of the countries has a Bitcoin a day program where they're going to buy a Bitcoin every single day until it's not feasible. But they also are investing in mining. So as we see regulation come in about environment, as we were just talking about in the States, Latin America and the Middle East will pick that up.
Well, I think another thing, since the U.S. has weaponized our monetary or our SWIFT system and many other things, I think you're seeing people focus on alternatives. People focus on options that aren't 100% driven through the U.S. government. So, I mean, the U.S. government currently, if you're a country that is offering mining legally and so on and so forth, they could sanction you. And that's kind of been the fear, is that the US won't be okay with you as a country, because then you might be outside of OFAC rules or AML rules or something. And there's a whole bunch of speculation around that. But now that BTC is an ETF in America and the US government has accepted its validity, I think that opens the door to a lot of these countries to offer solutions, which is great. I mean, obviously, we want to see global innovation.
What do you think is going to be more popular with investors, Bitcoin or ETH?
That's a bit of a loaded question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think they both have very different value propositions, in my opinion. And so I think there's a certain swath of investors, in particular, kind of your maybe passive types of investors, that are probably much more inclined to participate in Bitcoin, just because it's more well established. It's talked a lot about on Bloomberg and CNBC and all these other financial shows. And I mean, it's been compared to gold for quite a while, and it's been compared to being a store of value for quite a while. So kind of for that demographic of people, it's been drilled into their head that it's a investment grade asset. ETH, on the other hand, I think has more promise as an investment, personally. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more yield opportunities. There's a lot more things that you can do in DeFi with your assets and so on. But I think ETH is a little bit more focused, not necessarily, and I know where we're going with this, which is why I'm saying this, but ETH is a little bit more focused, I think, on kind of the active participants in the space a little bit. If you're active in crypto, more than just passive investing, ETH is obviously probably a more attractive option. And I mean, it's a little more objective in some ways in terms of its pricing, based on revenues and usage and all of these different things. Bitcoin's a little different. So they're two different assets. I think they should almost be in a separate asset class, because they behave, although similar, they do behave quite differently in a lot of ways. So I think the target markets are slightly different. Of course, most of us own BTC and ETH. But I mean, the people that are going to have a large chunk of their portfolio in either one of those are probably in one of those two groups. That's my thought. But if we make it easier for people to get Ethereum, then I think that might change things. If we make it easier for the passive investors to participate, don't have to have, on-chain wallets or any of that stuff. If we make it an ETF that's just simple to deal with, then maybe we're cooking with oil. So BlackRock, of course, as you could imagine, has said that compared to Bitcoin, the ETH interest is minimal, which is kind of concerning. So the summary of the article: BlackRock's head of digital assets, Robert Mitchnick, sheds light on the level of client interest in Ethereum versus Bitcoin, stating that Ethereum garners only a little bit of attention compared to the overwhelming focus on Bitcoin. Mitchnick dispels misconceptions about BlackRock's involvement in various crypto services, emphasizing the firm's primary focus on Bitcoin. Despite industry speculation, Mitchnick dismisses the possibility of BlackRock launching an ETF related to meme coin Dog Whiff Hat, which I've never heard of until right now.
Highlighting the firm's... talked about it last week.
Did I talk about it? I couldn't have. No.
Yep.
I don't think so. Highlighting the firm's strategic priorities. BlackRock's recent foray into the digital assets market, particularly with Bitcoin, with the Bitcoin Fund, Bitcoin Fund. I think that's a typo. Underscores a shift in approach driven by persistent client demand and frustration over limited access to crypto assets. So I guess this kind of answers your question, at least from the perspective of BlackRock clients. What do you think? What does this tell you?
I think it tells me that they're playing the long game and turning it into stocks. They're like, oh, what's going to be our most popular product? How are we going to position that product? Who will the target audience for this product be? That is all that this tells me. And I think the reason that they are pushing away the meme coin. So last week, we actually talked about how they were saying that meme coins can be very profitable, and they were exploring if they were going to continue investing in meme coins and so on and so forth. And this week they're saying, oh, maybe not. That tells me that they had a little bit of pushback about their legitimacy. They probably had pushback from some big spenders who were interested in ETH ETFs, and they need to keep those clients happy. But it just tells me that they're treating it like a product instead of like a cool, exciting technological revolution.
Yeah. So BlackRock is kind of known for portfolio management, obviously. People go there to buy baskets of assets. Yeah. And so their client demographic, again, I'm generalizing. Obviously, there's members of BlackRock that don't fit in this category, but their general demographic is people that are looking for managed investment services. I have money, I come to you, you tell me what you think I should put it in, I put it in that thing, and you manage it. That type of user, as I said before, in my opinion, is much more inclined to appreciate, understand, and be interested in Bitcoin currently. So this isn't surprising to me. Now, wearing a little bit of a tin hat and playing game theory a little bit, from a business strategy perspective, Fink did this with Bitcoin too.
Yeah.
He was very, very cold on Bitcoin for a long time. And then all of a sudden, when he saw a window, an opportunity, all of a sudden, complete 180, Bitcoin was the greatest thing that ever happened. They were going to go to market with an ETF.
Hey, that's just good business, JD.
Exactly. And so what I think they're doing here is if it was me, it would be a smart move. We're not seeing the same interest. So all competitors thinking about applying for and launching ETH ETFs, don't do that because our demand isn't there. So your demand surely won't be there. Of course you want less competition if you're going to launch the damn thing. So, I mean, if you want to go to that extent, I think there's definitely a non-zero chance that this is actually just business tactics, which I definitely respect. But it also could have some truth to it. It could be a function really of BlackRock's target demo also. So we'll have to see.
I feel like they're testing. That's what I feel like. Each week they come out, they have a lot of publicist releases right now.
Yeah.
And each week there's a slightly different narrative. I feel like it's testing.
I guess we'll find out.
All right. The other way that you can soon invest in Bitcoin and ETH is through the London Stock Exchange. They now have plans to launch a market for Bitcoin and ETH exchange-traded notes, also known as ETNs. This is going to be a big step in mainstream adoption of digital assets within the UK. The exchange aims to provide UK-based investors with opportunities to trade securities tracking these cryptocurrencies. The announcement follows the successful debut of spot Bitcoin ETFs in the US, signaling growing interest in digital asset investment products worldwide. Worldwide's a push. It's kind of like Western world.
Yeah, I mean, this makes sense to me. Canada had the Bitcoin and ETH ETFs a while ago. They've been built into retirement products and managed investment services for quite some time, actually, in Canada. And now the US has followed suit. It only makes sense that Western economies, established economies are jumping on board with this, to give that mass market opportunity and to give that validation, I suppose, to be a part of retirement products and different things. So this is pretty, I don't know, this isn't that exciting to me because it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that kind of makes sense. The US finally approved one. So now you'll see the vast majority of the developed world start approving them. But definitely good for the people in the UK. I mean, there's still a lot of speculation whether their regulation is going to kill DeFi and kill crypto in the UK, but we'll address that maybe on.
We'll under that in the US too. Tell us about what's going on with the SEC.
Well, I thought maybe we were going to get away with not talking about the SEC today.
No.
Oh, fine. Let me get down there. Okay, so the SEC is under fire. Who knew? And has been sanctioned for abuse of power amid the Ethereum probe. So the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, faces scrutiny and sanctions for alleged misconduct in its lawsuit against DebtBox, prompting criticism and calls for clarity within the crypto industry. A district court imposes sanctions on the SEC for acting in bad faith, highlighting concerns about the regulator's integrity. Advocacy groups file amicus briefs in support of Coinbase's appeal, urging the SEC to establish clear rules for market participants in general. Despite criticism, the SEC seeks additional funding to address the wild west of crypto markets and intensifies its probe into Ethereum's classification as a security, issuing subpoenas to companies involved with the Ethereum Foundation. I don't know what the SEC thinks they need more money for, because they just got, what, $4.5 billion from CZ?
Yeah, I think it was almost $5 billion, yeah.
Like, I don't feel bad for the SEC. I think this is great. They're finally getting a little bit of what they deserve for completely damaging the trajectory of the...
For the record, they have asked for an additional $158 million from the federal budget for 2025 because the crypto markets continue to grow. And what I think is interesting about that is that signals to us that they don't want the crypto market to continue to grow. They're like, oh, we didn't actually plan for this.
Let's go beat on all this.
It's negligible compared to their $5 billion, but also it's just kind of the indicator that bugs me here, right?
Yeah, I mean, the SEC really is just an extension of lobby at this point. Like that's the tail wagging the dog, and lobby has a lot of money and has been supporting these people for decades. So it's very, very hard to change the tide.
I think we talked last week about how the SEC is continuing to look into ETH and issued subpoenas to the ETH Foundation and people related to ETH Foundation. But I'm just wondering what the U.S. District Court sanctions are actually going to do. Like, what is it going to sanction them from?
I'm not sure if they can actually impose fines or if it's just kind of a slap on the wrist and we're saying, hey, legally you're wrong here, do better. I don't know. I don't know how far those district courts can go into federal agencies. I would assume not super far, but
I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting though.
All right, let's end on a very positive note.
Oh, you love Trump. Former President Donald Trump's ETH wallet activity unveils missed investment opportunities and unexpected gains from meme coins. I don't know who was not expecting that. Obviously, Trump was. Blockchain analytics firm Arkham Intelligence discovered Trump's wallet address, tracing transactions and revealing intriguing insights, such as Trump sold 1,075 ETH in December, missing out on over 1.3 million in potential gains. Despite this, he still holds over 300 ETH, which he obtained from his wild NFT projects. His crypto portfolio's main asset is his own mega coins, Trump, $Trump, of which he has over 579,000. They surged in value and are now worth over $28 million. But he did also miss out on $4 million by not selling Trump at its peak. I guess you're not going to sell your own namesake token. I don't know. With various other meme coins and holdings totaling around 5.6 million, Trump's crypto ventures remain under scrutiny amidst his ongoing campaign activity. Would you sell if you had a token called like JD token or something? Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Would you sell it?
$5 million? Come on. Like, if I've learned anything over many cycles of screwing shit up, it's take profits, period. In everything. Don't get emotional. Don't get connected to your assets. If you really like them, there will be an opportunity to buy them back at some point. I don't know. I would sell it. So Trump, different story. I mean, he's got a lot of conflicting bullshit happening in his world. Some he created, some he didn't. So, I mean, this is probably not high up on his list of priorities, managing his very small relative to net worth crypto portfolio. This is kind of a nothing burger, but I mean, it's always interesting. Trump somehow makes his way into every news cycle, not always for the things that we would hope for, but it seems like lately it's been about his crypto holdings. So.
There we go. That is your Bitcoin and ETH news for the week. As you can tell, there's a lot of publicist articles going on. There's good news, there's bad news. That's what we're here for. We're ready to dispel the FUD, dispel some of the hype too.
We gotcha. Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We're a live show. Like, share, hit the bell, do all that shit. Help us get the word out, please, especially on our friends watching on Twitter. It really helps with reach and exposing more people to what we're doing. Everybody, have a wonderful Tuesday. Ceara, go find yourself.
Go find yourself.
Bye, guys. Later.